Hello everyone, welcome to my fly tying desk. Today we're going to be tying some lovely flies called the Tyne Toucan, and it's got some beautiful natural materials that I'd like to just take you through. Firstly, I'm using a very traditional old partridge Code M size 6 single hook. The thread is a Uni 80 in red. The rib in the tag is a Uni French medium tinsel, and it's a black floss body, another Uni product. It makes good use of golden pheasant body feathers. First of all, the tail and the wing includes use of these lovely red breast feathers topped by golden pheasant crest. The head hackles include, firstly, a spey hackle.
The spey hackle is a lovely dyed pheasant rump, dyed black. It's the best substitute for heron. It's got black with a beautiful green sheen to it.
And the head hackle comprises teal red flank feathers, which again I prepared in the usual way, ready to be tied. The fly is then finished with a pair of jungle croc eyes. One of the biggest secrets to tying well is to tie consistently. And one of the biggest secrets to tying consistently is to prepare all your materials together in advance. So here I'm taking a bag of randomly sized teal flank feathers. I'm sorting it out into the ones that are all the right size for the size of Tyne Toucan that I'm tying today. And having picked out the feathers of the right size, I'm then preparing them all identically, ready to tie in. Not only does that actually make your tying in faster, but if you don't do this, if you don't start with identical materials, you have absolutely no chance of ending up with a consistent set of flies. And if you take that to its logical conclusion, which I do, then whenever you sit down to tie a set of flies, you'll pre-prepare all your materials like I have here for the Tyne Toucan. So we have our hooks, we have the materials for our thread, our rib and our floss. Down here we have small golden pheasant crest and small breast feathers for the tail. We have larger crest and breast feathers for the main wing. We've pre-prepared our spey hackles to be all the same size, and we've pre-prepared all our teal front hackles. And then finally, a matched set of jungle croc eyes, all identical. It's only if you do this that you can hope to be consistent across all your flies.
Okay, let's begin tying. The Tyne Toucan was popularised around 2012 by Gary Hillary, head gilly on the bi-wheel beat on the Tyne. The fly is reported to have taken more than 100 salmon that year in a beat that accounted for a total of 633 that season. So the hook I'm using today is a partridge size 6 Code M single. The hook uses quite a heavy gauge wire, and if we turn it sideways we can see how the loop eye is formed, but this does create a step in the hook that we need to deal with when we tie in our materials. We'll start with a uni thread in red, 80, and we'll tie on just where the loop eye is formed and finishes. And we'll begin to fill the gap by tying in our tinsel, a Uni French gold medium in oval at that point. We'll tie in our tinsel and then come back to the point of the hook and form our tag with 5 turns. We'll then tie in and quickly loop the tinsel underneath the hook to help fill the gap where the eye is formed. Our next material is the first feather for the tail, which is a lovely red golden pheasant breast feather. We'll strip off all the waste. The stalks on these are quite thick, so we want to make sure we don't build up too much bulk in the body of our fly. I'll lick my fingers and roll the feather between my fingers to help it come together and form that quite typical shape for the Tyne Toucan of the curve of the breast feather. The next ingredient is a bit of golden pheasant crest, which we tie in on top of the breast feather. I like these to sit nicely so that the feather of the crest just starts to separate at the back of the tail, and you can see the two distinct separate tails. I do the same thing you'll see with the wing later. We'll then tie in the next piece of oval tinsel for the rib, and again you can see I'm tying it underneath near where the gap was created on the hook, and I'll also then follow in with the body floss. Again, I'm using these all the time to fill that gap at that point in the hook. We'll quickly come down the body and back up again. This time I am using touching turns to make sure that we end up with a nice smooth underbody for the floss. And at this point I'll quickly throw in a whip finish, because that will then allow me to tie in the floss using the rotary action of my vise, and it helps give a much smoother result to the body. Having wound the floss body, I'll then quickly tie it in and then rub up the rib. I'll come up in probably around about 5 open turns for the rib. And you can see now we've pretty much completely filled that gap. The next ingredient is a larger golden pheasant red breast feather. Again, let's take away all the fluff. And again, roll the feather between my fingers to bring the fibres together. Let's take off the waist and then tie in the second component of the wing, which is another golden pheasant crest feather. These are lovely golden feathers and they give real nice accents to this fly. Again, as I did at the tail, I like the top of the wing to come away so that you can see the two distinct materials in the wing. The next ingredient is our spay hackle, and I've prepared it here. Make sure that a lot of the fibres are complete. You don't want to use one where there's lots of broken fibres, because they do stand out if you use that. This one is in nice condition, and I'll use my hackle pliers to just quickly find the tip of the feather and then usually give it about 2 turns. The one thing with these long fibres is you do need to sweep them back quite carefully, and they don't necessarily lie in the right place around the hook to start with, so you do need to preen them a little bit just to make sure that they sit nicely as you tie them in. Now this is going to be a fishing fly, and I do like my flies to be pretty tough as well as being pretty and pretty effective. So at this point I'll sweep everything back and make sure that I overwind the rachis. That way the fish can't damage that head hackle with its teeth. It can only break off individual fibres, and it means that the fly will last longer. And now the second head hackle, which is a lovely red dyed teal feather. And with a feather of this size I'll probably only get 2.5 turns in. But this is quite a nice feather, so that should be enough. And again, I'll carefully wind back over the rachis to make this a really, really strong head. And then just comb the long fibres so that they sit more naturally along the fly. And then we add the final touches to it with a couple of jungle cockeyes. I'll usually attach these with a couple of wraps, then fold back the stem and lock that down a couple of times. That way that eye will never come out, it'll have to snap off first. By folding it like that, you make the fly much, much stronger. Fold back the second. And check alignment of the two eyes. Now form a neat head. Because this is a fishing fly, I'm not too worried about trying to make it very small. Rather, I'm trying to make this a tough fly that will survive catching a couple of fish. And that's it. This beautiful red and yellow fly is absolutely deadly in peaty or dark flowing rivers and is usually fished slow and deep, often on a sinking line. It's also reputed to be a good taker of sea run trout. That's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.